guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing a review for Ant-Man and the Wasp. This is a movie I was really excited to see. I enjoyed the first Ant-Man. I am a huge Scott Lang fan, an even bigger Cassie Lang fan, so I was looking forward to this movie. So of course with my movie reviews, I usually do a non-spoiler portion and a spoiler portion, so let's get started. Non-spoilers for this movie, I thought this was better than the first one, and I enjoyed the first movie. So I really liked the action, especially with this one, and the comedy. I thought the comedy was a bit more on point here, but I actually like that they utilized the shrinking and, I guess, turning giant aspect of this film with the action, like the car chase scenes, the actual fight scenes. I thought they did that very well. And I liked the character dynamics with everybody. I thought that was even better. I enjoyed Hope and Scott in the first movie, but I really loved them in this. And I felt like their chemistry wasn't as forced as it was in the first movie, where I was like, they just need to do a love interest story. I didn't feel that as much, because I feel like the love interest stuff wasn't as in your face. It was definitely more of a side story, and Hope's story was more about her mother and her family. And I thought they dealt with Janet really well. Obviously a huge character in the comics, and I like right away that we know that she's alive. How are we supposed to save her? And that's the real meat of this movie, more than who's the villain, how do you defeat them. The villain were more just obstacles of the true story, which again was saving Janet and learning more about the quantum world. I always call it the microverse, because that's what they call it in the comics, but whatever they call it in the MCU. So I enjoyed that aspect. And of course, Scott and Cassie. That was the heart of this movie, is family. So I really enjoyed their chemistry. So that's my non-spoiler portion of the movie. So moving on to the spoiler portion, as I'm seeing the TV, they're showing an Ant-Man and Wasp trailer. How ironic. But yeah, with the spoilers, I want to talk about the villain, which is Ghost. I liked her motives. I like that this was definitely more character-driven than anything, and I think that makes sense for a Scott Lang-driven movie. His stuff tend to be a little bit more character-driven. So I like that she was driven to be this villain because of Hank's ego and arrogance, because that's so Hank's character. And that's one thing I kind of kept saying in this movie, is like, oh, they did that right. They did that right. You know, Janet's being the support system, but right when she comes back, which was a hysterical scene where we get to see Paul Rudd playing Janet, was great. But right when they start talking to each other, it's like, of course they're gonna have a fight. That was a short fight, because that's totally Janet and Hank. You know, they definitely had rough patches in the comic books. So I feel like everyone was so in character. And again, going to the Scott and Cassie, for me, that was the most important. What does Scott care about is his daughter, and really protecting her at any cost, and you get to see that. And then Cassie, you know, the small moments we get to see of her wanting to be a superhero and trying to protect her dad was so in character for Cassie. So I really enjoyed that. Now moving into the ending credit here, because that's the big moment for this movie, is how does this tie into Avengers Infinity War? And you know, I think we all figured in this movie someone was gonna disappear. So we get to see Ant-Man in the microverse, Scott Lang trying, I guess, to do some science experiment. And we see Hope mention something about a time vortex, so we know that's going to go into Avengers 4, and I'll explain about that later. But we get to see Hope, Janet, and Hank disappear. So all three of them disappear. We also get to see what the world's like after Thanos. The TV's off. It looks very quiet, even though it's kind of a jokey scene, the actual last ending credit where the ant is playing the drums, which I believe was in the trailer. But we get to see what the world is after Thanos, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, going into the time vortex, there's been rumors and inklings that Cassie's gonna be the Cassie we know from the comics, that she's gonna be a teenager and most likely a superhero in this next Avengers movie. And I think it's gonna be Scott being stuck in the quantum zone or microverse for the years where we catch up with Avengers and Cassie's a superhero, and he's going to be like, oh my god, I missed, you know, let's say 5 years of my daughter's life. What do I do? You know, it's him dealing with that, and I think that's gonna be really interesting. And I can't wait to see that as a Cassie and Scott fan, and it definitely plays true to who their characters are as well, is that they kind of keep missing each other, missing years with each other because someone dies or disappears. So I'm excited to see where they take that. So overall, like I said, I had a hugely fun time with this movie. I thought the action was a lot better in this movie. I thought they utilized Ant-Man's powers well. I thought the dynamic between Hope and Scott was a lot better here, and really just between the characters in general. It just upped the ante, and I guess that kind of was a pun. So just up that, and yeah, it was better than the first movie, and like I said, I enjoyed the first movie. So I guess my only complaint is that if you're looking for a huge, great villain, like we've kind of gotten in the last two Marvel movies, being Black Panther and Avengers, I don't think you're going to get that. She's not the most memorable villain, but I thought she fit what she had to do for this movie, and I feel like it wasn't much about her. Again, it was more an obstacle to get Janet. So it wasn't as big of a deal for me, and my overall enjoyment kind of is able to look over those minor negatives of the movie, which again, maybe could have been a bit of a stronger villain. But overall, I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars. I just had a blast with it, and as a Scott Lang fan and Cassie fan, I think each of these movies are getting better. I think if we get a third Ant-Man movie, that might be the 5-star movie I'm waiting for an Ant-Man movie. But let me know in the comments below, what did you think? This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links to my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.